There's a couple game studios and directors that I actively follow and will play pretty much anything that they release. One of them is Suda51 and his studio Grasshopper Manufacture. The games that they make are always some of the most stylish and fun action games, distilled punk in game form. Grasshopper Manufacture really is the ideal mid-budget game studio and are an example of what I want and look for in games. I never got the chance to play their game Liberation Maiden on the 3DS until after I soft-modded my 3DS and learned of H-Shop. I didn't know much about the game outside of Suda51's involvement and that the game looked fun. That was all I needed for me to at least be interested in the game and want to check it out. Thank you to my supporters. If you would like to support me in the channel, you can do so on Patreon. Link on screen and in the description. If you do, you'll be thanked in the videos, be able to watch each video a week early, as well as gain access to bonus videos. I wouldn't say it's fair to say that Liberation Maiden doesn't have a story. It does. Kind of. It's more accurate to say that it has a light narrative framing, and that's where the story more or less begins and ends. In the near future of the year whatever the fuck, the country of New Japan is getting their shit kicked in by some force called the Dominion. Who are they? What are their motivations? Hell if I know. They're evil, I guess. This is where the main character and second president of New Japan, Shoko Ozora, straps into the mech Kamui. I swear it sounds like she says Kamui and not Kamui.
Let's go, Kamui!
Shoko then takes on the Dominion by the twin tails and pegs them as hard as she can. She even developed a spiral technique to peg them with. You know, I think I'd vote for Shoko. No particular reasons. But that's it. That's all the fucking story in this game. If you were coming into a Grasshopper action game looking for an amazing story, then what the hell are you doing here? I'm not saying they make bad stories, but their games use story as an excuse to do cool and weird shit. Sure, something like No More Heroes does have some stuff to say about the nature of power fantasies, but let's be fucking real. That game exists because Suda51 wanted to see Johnny Knoxville decapitate some fuckers with a lightsaber and do sick wrestling moves. Who can blame him for wanting such simple pleasures in life? And that same shit is here, but with even less to say. The game just says, you're in a fucking mech now, go have fun blowing shit up. Liberation Maiden plays very similar to Kid Icarus Uprising. Like, the two games share more similar control schemes than you think, which is interesting since they came out so close together. For reference, Kid Icarus Uprising came out March of 2012, and Liberation Maiden was May of 2012. But if you're unfamiliar with how Kid Icarus Uprising plays, you move with a circle pad and aim and shoot using the touchscreen. Skills in one game absolutely carry over to the other. This isn't to say they play exactly the same, just very similar. For one thing, Liberation Maiden doesn't have a shoot button. You fire your shots on release of the touchscreen when you've locked onto targets. And unlike Kid Icarus Uprising, you don't control the camera with the touchscreen. Rather, Shoko's got 10 controls, so you turn the camera with left and right on the circle pad. The L button locks in the camera position, allowing you to strafe and use more two-dimensional movement. I found myself holding the L button most of the game and really only releasing it when it came time to turn the camera. Otherwise, it is hella awkward to fight without the strafing. Liberation Maiden is an incredibly fucking fun game. This game is what if you took Kid Icarus Uprising and instead designed it with a more arcadey and shmup philosophy. It's challenging, intense, and high as fuck octane action, where every single moment of gameplay is nothing but pure enjoyment. Take the projectile and enemy density and bump that shit up. And much like a shmup, Liberation Maiden is designed to be very short and replayable. The game is only an hour long and has a bunch of in-game achievements that incentivizes multiple playthroughs and taking on the game at higher difficulties. I get that it's designed for the game to be replayed, but I do wish it was a bit longer. Give me just another mission or two for fuck's sake. Please? This shit is so much fun and I wish there was more. Give me more hype-ass bosses with fucking vocal themes, goddammit. That shit is peak and it makes you feel like the coolest anime protagonist. Everything about this game make brain feel good. Now for those of you who earlier heard that this game controls like Kid Icarus Uprising, probably got both excited and winced if you've ever played the game. If you're unfamiliar, Kid Icarus Uprising has an infamous reputation for damaging wrists. And it's unfortunate to say that Liberation Maiden is no different. While Liberation Maiden is a fun-as-shit game, it also hurts as shit to play. Having to support the weight of the 3DS entirely on one wrist while playing an intense action game is a recipe for exploding wrists. The only saving grace is that Liberation Maiden is only an hour long, so before you start screaming in fucking agony, grasping your shattered wrists, you've already hit credits. Also, the missions are short as hell. So in between the missions are a good time to take a minute wrist rest break to not fucking hurt yourself. But not gonna lie, I'll take a couple shattered wrists for this game. It's a fair trade. This is also a very situational complaint about the game that I doubt applies to anyone but me and like 2 other people. But having to wiggle the circle pad when you get your shit stunned fucking sucked because I've got a USB coming out of the capture card in the 3DS, and doing that shit fucked with the cable and I lost connection a bit during the 3rd boss. It's personally upsetting that I wasn't able to get clean footage of that boss. If you don't have the rare affliction known as YouTuber disease, then this isn't that big of an issue and the boss is just more hype action. But honestly, even with the circle pad wiggling and my wrists turning into dust and blowing away into the wind, that's not the worst aspect about Liberation Maiden. The real worst part, this shit doesn't exist anymore. Legally. But hey, guess what? The eShop is fucking dead. Not to sound like a 2023 Nintendo YouTuber because I actually engage with RPGs outside of complaining about boob sliders, but you can't buy shit anymore on a 3DS. And what makes this situation worse is that Liberation Maiden was only ever sold digitally outside Japan. I mean, I guess you could import a copy of Guild 01 which has Liberation Maiden on it, but that's not really the best solution. All that leaves is emulation, which is currently fucked. After the March 2024 lawsuit, the main development team behind Citra has to cease operations. For the time being, 3DS emulation kinda sucks major penis. Liberation Maiden on Citra is labeled as having okay compatibility. Basically, it works if you've got a good computer. If you don't, then get fucked. Even then, I ended up getting some minor graphical issues of enemies lingering after death for a while. It really sucks that this is the current state of emulating Liberation Maiden because the game feels so much better to play with a controller in my left hand, resting on my leg, and a mouse in my right. It doesn't deal permanent damage to play like this. But it does suck that I have to spend mental resources to making sure I click only on the bottom screen region. I constantly feel like I'm going to click outside the window. At least on hardware, it feels natural aiming using the bottom screen. On emulation, it's a bit awkward. The game was also released on the iOS as well. I'm not a member of the Apple cult, so I asked my friend with an iPhone to see if the game was even still available, and that shit was gone. Also, phones aren't a legitimate platform for games. Don't let gacha players say otherwise, they've gaslit themselves into believing that shit. I would rather have my wrists implode on themselves than play this game on a phone. Liberation Maiden is such a sad state of affairs. It's a fantastic game. It's like digital crack that hits the dopamine just right. But the only ways to play it anymore are to either be satisfied with subpar emulation or pirate it on actual hardware and crack your wrists. I would absolutely love for this game to be re-released on Steam where not only would there be controls that wouldn't cause bodily harm, but it would actually be accessible. As it is now, Liberation Maiden is abandoned and trapped on a 3DS. And that's a shame because this game is fucking awesome.